Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am so thrilled you're here because today we're going to build something pretty incredible together. We are diving into how to construct a highly resilient, modern organizational quality architecture. Think of this explainer as your master structural blueprint. We're going to take all those complex regulations and quality management philosophies and translate them into clear, actionable architectural plans. Plans you can actually use to build a system that won't just survive the pressures of the modern business world, but absolutely thrive in it.
So you might be wondering, why do we even need this blueprint? Well, let's look at the environment we're building in right now. Jeffrey Hunt from the ISO Technical Committee really hits the nail on the head here. We are operating in a VUCA world. That's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Rapid technological innovation is completely upending how we do business. And look, all that rapid change, it threatens stability unless we're anchored by incredibly solid standards. Without a sturdy foundation, an organization can just crumble under the weight of its own rapid evolution.
All right, so here is our game plan for today. First, we'll look at the modern quality challenge. Next, we're going to break down two crucial enablers, knowledge and risk. Then we'll get into the specific design considerations, and finally, how to document the whole shebang in the quality manual. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Modern Quality Challenge. Honestly, this is kind of like a boxing match, and it brilliantly illustrates the core dilemma organizations are facing today. As was highlighted in a recent panel on emerging tech, there's this massive inherent tension between fast-paced innovation on one side and strict quality control on the other. See, innovation actually thrives on failure. Think about Thomas Edison for a second. He didn't fail 900 times to invent the light bulb. He just learned 900 materials that didn't work. It's a learning process. But quality management? Yeah, that operates in a completely different reality. In quality, failure is a catastrophic outcome that absolutely must be prevented. So the big question is, how do you balance the need to innovate with the absolute necessity of never, ever failing your customer? Well, the solution, especially when you're looking at highly regulated industries like medicine, is what the ICH Q10 guidelines call a pharmaceutical quality system, or PQS. Now, this isn't just some boring set of rules. It is a comprehensive, life cycle spanning architectural foundation. Think of a well-designed PQS as the ultimate bridge between those two extremes we just talked about. It allows your organization to continually improve, innovate, and bring in new tech, all while maintaining an ironclad state of control over product quality and patient safety. Moving right along to Section 2, the enablers, knowledge, and risk. Okay, our first enabler is knowledge management. And as defined by ICH Q10, let me be clear, this is way more than just keeping a digital filing cabinet. It's a systematic approach to acquiring, analyzing, storing, and disseminating information. We're talking about your development studies, tech transfers, process validations, and your everyday manufacturing experience. Every single time you run a process, you are generating knowledge. A truly resilient system captures all of that so it can be leveraged, not just lost in the shuffle. Now, check out the word proactive in the definition for our second enabler, quality risk management, or QRM. This is a game changer because QRM shifts our focus away from just putting out fires after they happen. Instead, it's a systematic process for identifying, scientifically evaluating, and controlling potential quality risks across the entire life cycle of a product. It's basically your organizational radar, constantly scanning the horizon for potential failures way before they ever materialize. So the crucial takeaway here is this beautiful, symbiotic relationship between the two. Knowledge management anchors us in what we've already learned from the past, our historical data, our validations. Then quality risk management takes that exact past knowledge and projects it into the future to proactively safeguard against risks. Think about it. You literally cannot effectively predict future risks if you aren't systematically managing your past knowledge. They are two halves of the exact same engine, driving continual improvement. And look, I'm not just making this stuff up. To prove these aren't just abstract, theoretical ideas, take a look at the actual ICH Q10 regulatory documentation right here. Section 1.6 literally mandates that using knowledge management and quality risk management will enable a company to implement the system effectively. These aren't optional extras. They are the required structural supports you need to achieve a state of control and actually make science-based decisions.
Okay, that brings us to Section 3. Design and content considerations.
I want you to stop and think about this for a second. So you've identified your risks, you've gathered all your knowledge. Now what? How do you actually design a system around all of that? It's one thing to talk about risk and knowledge in theory, right? But how does that translate into the practical, day-to-day architecture of your specific company?
Thankfully, the ICHQ-10 guideline lays out some really brilliant, flexible ground rules for design. First off, your system has to be proportionate to your product lifecycle stages. Basically, development needs totally different controls than commercial manufacturing. Second, it has to be custom scaled to your company's size and complexity. A massive multinational pharma giant needs a very different blueprint than a tiny 50-person biotech startup. Third, it naturally has to incorporate the risk management principles we just went over. And finally, and guys, this is so absolutely crucial in our modern economy, your system has to assure the quality of outsourced activities and purchase materials. You can outsource the work, for sure, but you cannot outsource your quality responsibility.
Here we can see the literal regulatory framework for this. Section 1.7 explicitly demands that the design, organization, and documentation of the PQS should be well structured and clear. Why? To facilitate a common understanding and consistent application. Let's be real. If your system is so wildly complex that your own employees can't even understand it, it's not a resilient system. It's a liability. Clarity isn't just nice to have, it is a strict requirement. Which brings us to our final stop, Section 4, the Quality Manual. So, this brings up a pretty vital question. How do we actually capture and document this entire architecture? How do we make sure that everyone, from the CEO all the way down to the technicians on the manufacturing floor, is building from the exact same blueprint? You need a tangible, unifying document that keeps everybody aligned. Answer: the Quality Manual. According to Section 1.8 of ICHQ-10, your quality manual must contain these exact steps. First, establish the quality policy. Those are the overall intentions and directions set by senior leadership. Second, you clearly define the scope of the system. Third, identify your processes, their linkages, and all their interdependencies. And fourth, explicitly outline management responsibilities. What this does is translate heavy bureaucratic requirements into a real-world, usable roadmap. It guarantees everyone knows the goals, the boundaries, and exactly who is on the hook for what. And here is a massive pro tip directly from the ICHQ-10 guidelines. Visualize this system. The docs explicitly recommend using visual tools like process maps and flowcharts right there in your quality manual. And it makes total sense, right? When you're dealing with complex interdependencies, a giant wall of text is just incredibly difficult to parse. No one's reading that. But a well-designed flowchart, that makes those intricate linkages instantly understandable. So when changes do happen, everyone can see exactly how downstream processes are going to be affected. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on and take back to your teams. Ask yourself, is your quality manual just a dusty document sitting on a shelf that you only ever drag out during an audit? Or is it a dynamic, living system that's actually driving your organization's continual improvement? By actively leveraging your knowledge and risk, and by designing a system that is scaled, proportionate, and highly visual, you aren't just checking compliance boxes. You are building true, lasting organizational resilience in a very volatile world. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to go audit your own organizational blueprints today.